was a rumble in the jungle once. I heard Dad was outside again counting birds, and Mama plugged in a nightlight, and I saw the queen of the world. Mama plugged in the nightlight, and I saw the queen.
Hello, welcome to the Golden Hour Birth Podcast. We're so happy to have you back. I'm your host, Natalie.
And I'm Liz.
And today we're back for another special birth podcast with Liz, number 2, sweet baby girl, Vivian.
Vivian, yeah.
I don't know if you want to share that, sorry. So we'll kind of jump right into it because you obviously know a little bit about Liz. I know we want to know every piece of you, Liz, but we can go ahead and jump into how you and Jason were ready and knew you guys were ready for baby number 2.
Sure. Yeah, so we had Arthur in 2019, and he had just turned 1. We had a big party for him. Everybody came over. We decorated the living room with his favorite YouTube video.
Which literally stayed there until you guys moved.
Yeah. Yeah, because right after his birthday, COVID hit.
Yeah.
And we were working from home, and the living room turned into our office. Yeah. And we didn't want to take the decorations down because it was festive and made it not as sad that we couldn't go to work. Yeah, and then so COVID hit and everyone was kind of sent home and shut down for 2 weeks. Such a joke now.
I know. That turned into 2 years.
Yeah. And ongoing.
I know.
And so when we were home, it was kind of like, we were having fun. Arthur was home, his daycare closed, and the 3 of us were just having fun, and it seemed like kind of a good time to start trying for baby number 2. Lots of alone time and not much to do. Otherwise, it's not like we could go out to restaurants or do much else. So yeah, we started trying for Vivian, and COVID kept going, and
staying home more and more
for more than 2 weeks. And then so we got pregnant in like late April, I think. And right after we got pregnant, Jason got furloughed from his job.
Yeah.
So we were like, oh, okay. They, I'm not going to get into what he does. And around that same time was, when George Floyd got murdered, and there were protests going on a lot in St. Louis. So it was a pretty tough time for everybody at that point.
Yeah. And
I don't think we thought like, oh shit, like, did we make a mistake or anything? We were like, maybe it wasn't the best time, but obviously we're so happy now.
Yeah.
We have, our little baby. But, so I had hoped to give birth at the birthing center again, where I had Arthur. So I made an appointment there, and we went for my first appointment, and it was great. I love the midwives there. And
do you remember when that was?
I think it was around June.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So if we got pregnant in April, we're about 6 weeks, I guess, to get the, confirmation. And when I went, my blood pressure was a little bit high, just a little bit. And
do you remember the numbers?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I have it written down somewhere, but they weren't like concerned. It was just like, oh, it's a little bit high. And then I'm like, oh, well, I also have that like white coat syndrome where I get really nervous around.
Yeah.
And because of my last experience having high blood pressure and the end of Arthur's, birth, where my blood pressure was really high and being, not pressured, but they were saying that I might have to go upstairs. I was just kind of nervous to see like what it was. But in all my postpartum visits and everything, it was normal.
Yeah.
And I had like a yearly checkup with the midwives, and everything was normal.
Yeah, it's like the first thing that they do. So like you're already just like walking there, like getting all the emotions built up.
Yeah, and we're just excited for being pregnant, and like I don't know, they don't really give you a chance to just like chill and rest before they do it.
Yeah.
So it was again one of those like, well, can we take it after? And I think we did take it after the appointment, and it was still kind of elevated. So we talked a little bit with the midwife about my blood pressure and just how, because it was a little bit high in the last pregnancy, are there any steps I can take to, help with my blood pressure? And, they didn't really say much, just diet and exercise and try to relax. And I went home from that appointment, and I think it might have been the next day, or I don't know, a couple days after, where I got a call from the midwives. And I think it was Jenny. And she's like, oh, hi, how are you doing? I've got some bad news for you. I was like, okay. She's like, well, we looked over your chart from your last pregnancy, and based on your last blood pressure reading, we're risking you out of the birthing center. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like,
I need some normal language
yeah,
here.
Like, can I still come? So they said that no, I wouldn't be able to give birth there, and I would need to be under the care of someone else. Basically, they didn't say like, oh, you need to go to an OB, but they basically said that since my blood pressure was high, that I needed, extra monitoring.
Yeah.
And I kind of, not argued with her, but gave her some pushback. Like, well, is there anything I can do? Like, I could do extra monitoring at home, and maybe we can, just take it month by month and see what happens. And, if my blood pressure keeps going up, then, we can think about it. But it was so early in my pregnancy. Like, can't we just see how things go?
Yeah.
Because I had gotten a blood pressure machine, and I started taking my blood pressure at home, and it was completely fine.
Yeah.
Just like I had it from Arthur's birth. So, I started taking my own blood pressure, and every time it was totally fine. Like, whatever normal is.
I wonder what it was. I mean, I guess it had to be the white coat syndrome.
I don't
because
know.
There's no other way to describe that.
I know. And I'm like, can you just give me one more chance?
One more chance,
begging.
please.
Like, don't break up with me.
You don't even know me.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, I definitely cried a lot. And
I remember
it was
that.
just like, it was a shock,
Yeah.
Like, that was my plan.
Exactly.
The birth center.
So, like, people write this, magnificent birth plan, and here Liz is completely getting her pregnancy plan crumbled.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know. And during COVID, which I know, like, doctors' offices were, like, so much more strict with the visitor.
Mm-hmm.
The birthing center was amazing, and, like, letting the partners still come.
Yeah, thankfully. Jason got to be there.
Yeah. I remember, like, talking a lot about this with you, because I think, like, at that point that you were risked out, like, we were at the point of trying. And so I know that we, like, had a few conversations, and it was really emotional for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was sad.
Yeah.
It was sad.
Now we're laughing.
I definitely grieved that a little bit, because
for sure.
Yeah, I had this whole vision idea in my head. Yeah, of giving birth there again,
They're just, like, so intentional there, too. I feel like the OBs, which I know that you kind of shared in Arthur's birth story, it's just like, okay, any questions? Thanks, bye. I'm not trying to, hurt any OBs out there.
There are some really good ones.
There's some really great ones, but at the same time, it's just, the care is just different.
Yeah, it is different. Yeah. Yeah. So, I ended up asking for a recommendation from the midwives for an OB. And they have an OB who oversees the midwives. And when they have like things like this with my high blood pressure or whatever else comes up in a pregnancy, they always run it by this, this particular OB. So I thought, she'll be really good, maybe similar care to a midwife. And like, maybe she'll be warm and fuzzy like the midwives, So I made an appointment and I went to see her, and she wasn't my favorite person. She was pretty, like we were just describing, very like, okay, any questions? Okay, all right, next,
Yeah.
And, I described my situation and how I had wanted to give birth in the birthing center and how I still wanted to try and, have a natural birth, even if I was going to be in the, hospital and things like that. And I just didn't feel like she listened to me and really cared about what I wanted. It was just like, well, you're diagnosed as having high blood pressure, so this is how we're going to treat you. And I didn't have high blood pressure in my appointments with her. I kept track of all this, and I would like download my medical records after visits and things like that so that I could keep track of everything. And I didn't have high blood pressure. And so after every visit, I'd be like, during the visits, I would ask, oh, how's my blood pressure? And she'd be like, it looks great, And so after a couple visits, she like casually mentioned, oh, well, since you're diagnosed with high blood pressure, we induce, patients like you at 37 weeks. And I was like, well, but I don't have high blood pressure now in this pregnancy. Like I had one reading at the very beginning of my pregnancy, and I had it with my last pregnancy, which a lot of things that happen in one pregnancy doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen in this pregnancy. They don't always transfer over. Like you can have gestational diabetes in one pregnancy and not in the next one. So it's just, it didn't really make sense to me that she was just like giving me this diagnosis and just giving me this blanket statement of, well, we're going to induce you. And I was just like really taken aback by that. So I ended up hiring a doula who was amazing and had so much knowledge about this. And she really encouraged me to ask a lot of questions at my next appointment. And I went in there with like a list of questions. And
we're going to have a little talk.
And I don't think she liked that. I don't think the OB liked that. I was like questioning her.
Of course not. She went to medical school.
And like, I completely, like, I get that. But it just didn't fit my situation. And I want to know, like, why. Like, okay, if I'm being induced at 37 weeks, I would be okay with that if I felt like everything backed that up.
And 37 weeks is still kind of risky. I mean, obviously, of course, some babies come naturally then. Some babies have to come out at 37, but that's still pretty early. Like, they still have, like, lungs to be developed. So.
And I just didn't feel like in my situation it was warranted. But she just didn't like my questions.
Do you remember, like, any of the specifics of that?
I think it was just mostly like, well, why can't we just keep monitoring my blood pressure and then see how it goes, like how I progress? Like, okay, so if I start having high readings towards the end of my pregnancy, then can we talk about induction? And she was just like, no.
And you were still like 20-ish.
I was pretty early. And I don't even know if I had my anatomy scan at that point. Like it was early.
Still really early.
And then she kept saying like, well, we don't need to talk about that yet. And I'm like, well, kind of, we do, because if this is the plan we're going with, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, like we still have like 20 plus weeks to go. Why are you making plans, but you're also not making
right.
plans?
Like you're not being open with me about talking about it, but yet you're like saying this is going to happen.
Yeah.
So I just didn't get a good feeling. Jason didn't have a good feeling either.
Yeah.
And so I remember going back home and talking with Jason, and then we talked to our doula, and she was just like, well, you have options. There are other OBs, there are other practices. You could even do a home birth. There are a lot of options.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. And I need to advocate for myself. Like, if I'm not comfortable, like, do I really want her in the room while I'm pushing? Like, I don't know. If I just didn't have that good feeling with her.
Yeah.
So I ended up meeting with a couple of midwives who do home births and weighing my options, looking at the cost and just my health record, me being a little bit older, also my high blood pressure, and then the big thing was that I had the retained placenta in Arthur's birth, and they had to hand deliver it, and I was losing a lot of blood if that were to happen again, which, again, just because it happened in my first birth doesn't mean it necessarily was going to happen again.
Yeah.
But I was pretty traumatized by that.
Of course.
So I thought, if that happens again, I want to be in a hospital.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
I know that midwives can handle that kind of thing at a home birth, but I was, I'm just scared.
Yeah.
So two midwives that I met with that have a practice have an OB that they work with. And I met with him, and he was so kind and seemed more on the midwife level.
Yeah.
Not as much,
Medical diagnosis.
Yeah. So I really liked him, and I explained, my situation, and he said, send over your medical records and I'll take a look, and, at your next appointment, we can talk about your birth plan, and I'll give you, my honest opinion, and he said, similar, like, well, because you had high blood pressure, it's, it could happen again, where, you need extra monitoring, and, but I can take it week by week with you,
That's awesome.
I'm not going to say that induction is off the table.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say that we're definitely doing it.
Yeah.
At this point.
So ways to go, honey.
Yeah. So I ended up, switching to him, and I liked him. He was just really nice. I don't know.
Yeah.
And my doula also had a lot of recommendations for natural ways to lower my blood pressure. So I was like walking every day and made some changes to my diet, and she referred me to this herbal clinic, and I got some like specialty teas and tonics.
Shout out to Forest and Meadow.
Yeah. Place is awesome.
Yeah.
And they're specially made for me. So like I did this huge
So
intake
awesome.
And had a long meeting and, explained everything about my health history and what our goals were. And she creates these amazing teas and tonics that, really helped.
I remember going there with you and being like, this place is like in my neighborhood. How am I not know about this? And then I was like, oh, I got to come back here because I got to get some calm for this.
Yeah.
Constipation.
All that. Yeah, and they had like the elderberry syrup and
everything.
even like postpartum
Yeah, I took like milk
teas
tonic.
and milk tonics and all kinds of stuff.
Their raspberry tea is actually what sent me into labor.
Yeah.
Forest and meadow.
Great place. Let's see. So, around this time, I also started feeling like not myself. There was COVID. There was Black Lives Matter protests going on. There was just personal stuff going on with my pregnancy. And I started just like, I didn't feel like sad, but like I was having a hard time finding like the joy in things, which, when you're pregnant, you want to feel like happy,
It's kind of perfect that we're doing this right now because it's maternal mental health awareness week.
Yeah. And mental health awareness month.
Yeah.
Too.
And here's me on the other end learning this for the first time. So
yeah. I guess, I mean, it was COVID, so we weren't seeing a lot of people, so nobody really knew.
Yeah. Like COVID was
I mean, we were
so
like
weird.
wiping down groceries.
Yeah.
That was a weird time. There
It
was
was
a
so
toilet
weird.
paper shortage. Like,
Toilet paper.
I started meeting with a therapist online because nobody was doing in-person
Yeah, I don't know what anybody
appointments.
It's like.
And it was one of those things like, well, I'm not really sad. I just don't feel like happy. Like I felt happy, but just not like the happiness that you normally feel. You just don't feel yourself.
Yeah.
So she was like, you can meditate, you can walk, all these things that like when you're not feeling yourself, you don't want to do those things. But they're the things that are going to help you.
Yeah.
So you get into this like cycle of like, I'm going to go do this stupid walk for my stupid mental health. And like, but it helps.
Yeah.
And they did help, and talking to Jason about it helped. And I think that that's always a really hard part is just being open about it with your partner.
For sure.
Because you don't know how they're going to react or like, well, why are you feeling like this? Is it my fault? Or are you not happy in this relationship? You start cycling out and but being open and talking about it, definitely helped.
It was just like a really weird time too. Like Wes is one right now and I cannot imagine still working from home and having him.
Yeah.
Like you guys were in the thick of it. There was no other place to go.
Towards the end of my pregnancy, my blood pressure did start rising a little bit, but my OB still felt comfortable with the numbers and what I was doing to help, with my walking and, I never had any like signs of preeclampsia or anything.
Yeah.
I didn't have headaches or, vision changes or anything like that. So weekly, I would go in and he would do ultrasounds.
Yeah.
Where he would check the position of the baby and check the fluid levels.
Yes.
And everything would be fine. I didn't have to do any stress tests, which was good.
Did he ever like check your protein in your urine? Because that's like what they did for me at the birthing center when my blood pressure started to rise. So I was just wondering.
Yeah. No, I don't think it was that high. And like he had me monitoring it at home too. So he would say, take it in the morning and at night. And if it's ever above this level, like he gave me some numbers, call me. And it never was. At home, it was always like pretty normal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something about going into those offices. I don't know. Oh yeah. One other thing was, since it was COVID, the policies were changing like every other day.
Oh yeah.
And you'd hear these stories of like moms going and having to give birth by themselves, which that just sounded like the worst thing for me. And I kept saying like, if Mercy ever goes down to not having any partners, I was just going to have a home birth. Like, That was pretty much my solution. But they never did. They always let partners come in. And then by the time it got closer for us, we were able to have a partner and another support person. So that was my doula.
Ditto, yeah.
So that was nice. And we didn't have to get tested or anything. That would have sucked. You hear of people like they're testing or their husband tested with it and then they didn't have any symptoms, but then they weren't allowed in. And
I know.
Or like the mom's on the COVID floor, like just quarantined away and
away from baby.
Yeah.
Which was like crazy.
That's crazy. Because the studies all showed, like evidence-based studies showed that baby being with mother was the best. Yeah. Even if you tested positive.
Yeah.
And they were like still separating babies from mothers, which that doesn't make any sense.
I know. I had Wes a year in, and like even then with like the possibility of having COVID, I still could not imagine like what those mothers went through.
Mm-mm.
And like shout out to
oh my gosh,
all those moms that possibly could have been taken away from their baby during that precious time.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
And those who had to give birth alone.
Yeah.
I mean, that just sounds like you need your person there.
I know. We were in COVID and like don't think I realized how much was actually going on. I'm just like thinking back to that, like, what the hell? So is there anything else that like feels important to add for this journey until delivery?
I think that was it for my pregnancy. Yeah, my pregnancy for this birth was way more. Like
Arthur was like, easy breezy.
It was so easy. And I thought that's how Vivian would be too.
You really had to
navigate.
But
it was. Like, it actually was an easy pregnancy. It was just all of the provider changes.
These outside factors.
Yeah. And so that threw me into a spiral a couple times.
Absolutely.
So pregnancy was good. Again, I liked being pregnant,
Yeah. It's a special time.
Yeah. And then, so Vivian's due date was January 1st.
21.
And we had Christmas. And
we were bumping up to each other.
Yeah. Her little belly, my big giant belly.
Literally like due any day to like 20 weeks. So it was perfect.
We had a really, really good Christmas.
It was really good.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took it easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember even my parents and Jason's parents like, okay, well, what do you guys want to do for Christmas? And we're like, we will let you know that day.
There's no planning ahead. Yes. I'm 6 days away from my due date.
If we have the baby, then we won't come. If we don't have the baby, then we will be there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, we had a really good Christmas, and I didn't think I was going to make it to New Year's.
Yeah.
I didn't think.
I mean, by the time that we were leaving Christmas at Sam and Jason's mom's house, we were like, all right, the next time we see you, there'll be a baby.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, let's see. After Christmas, I kind of did want to make it through Christmas. I didn't want to have a Christmas baby. I wanted to make it through Christmas. And so after that, I started doing some kind of natural, oxytocin boosting activities.
We know what that means, Liz.
And, because I also had the possibility of still being induced.
Yeah.
So I just didn't really want to be induced. I just heard stories of, contractions when you've been induced from Pitocin, and they're really strong and they are really intense. And I still wanted to do a med-free birth. So I was just trying to do everything I could naturally, which is also I pumped. I started pumping with a hand pump with permission from my OB. And I went to the chiropractor like once a week. And then eating dates and the red raspberry leaf tea, bouncing on the yoga ball, and some sex. In case my mom's listening.
Betsy will totally be into this.
And who knows if that stuff helps or not. I like to think it does. Because when I went in for my 39-week appointment, everything looked good.
Yeah.
But my blood pressure was a little bit high. And it wasn't high enough to say, like, oh, you need to go in right now or do any stress tests or anything. But the doctor decided to schedule my induction. So, since 20 weeks even before that, we had been wondering, am I going to be induced?
Yeah.
Am I going to be induced? There were like pros of being induced, like, when it's going to happen, which would ease my anxiety a little bit about when I'm going to be induced, and like getting childcare for Arthur.
Yeah.
Just kind of knowing, what's going to happen when, but I was also nervous of being induced. Just not knowing how that would be.
Yeah.
So I just really wanted to not be induced as much as I could. So once, it's funny though, because once the induction was planned, I felt like a weight lifted off of me. Because it was like, okay, well, now we can plan.
It was scheduled the 29th or 30th of December.
It was scheduled on the 29th evening.
That's it. And then
at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
So that day, at that appointment, after we scheduled the induction, my doctor asked if I wanted to be checked. Well, he said that it would also help know which kind of induction we could do. Because if you're like not dilated or effaced at all, they have to start with something else. But if you are, then they can start with a different type of drug. So there's like a couple different
like
types of,
it's like softening the cervix, which like they insert. And then
or there's like the Foley bulb, which is just like a balloon they stick up to help you dilate. Or they can just start you on Pitocin. Like there's just a couple different ways. So I don't really know the details of that, but he said like if he checked me, then he would kind of have a better idea of where we would start.
So you got checked.
So I got checked, and while I was down there, I just said, you may as well give me a sweep. So it wasn't painful or anything. I heard some stories of people having painful sweeps.
Mine was a little painful, but I mean, it does go by so quick that it's like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Did he give you a number of how far along you were?
Yeah, I was 2.5 dilated, 2.5 inches, centimeters, 2.5 centimeters dilated,
2.5 centimeters,
and 80% effaced.
Wow!
So I was pretty good.
You were ready to go.
Yeah.
And that was December 28th, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The 28th, and I had plans to go over to my mom's after that appointment, and we were going to do pedicures. So I called my doula on the way there, and I told her what was going on, that my induction was scheduled, and then I got a sweep, and then I'm going to get a pedicure. And she said, ask the pedicurist to do a leg massage, like not like a foot massage, but like there's a special leg massage that they can do where they like hit these pressure points.
That's awesome.
And can help like induce labor. So I go and I get the pedicure, and I'm joking with our nail guy. His name is Bill, and he's saying like, if I put you into labor, like you're gonna have to name this baby after me.
Billy the little girl.
It was a really fun day.
Yeah.
So
Any day is fun with Betsy.
Shout out. So then, yeah, we were just like, okay, well, let's make plans. You know, we're going to drop Arthur off tomorrow morning, and then Jason and I will get to rest the rest of the day, and then we'll go in for our induction, and we'll see what happens, you know? And so that night we went to bed, and I woke up around 1:30, cramps, wondering, oh, okay, am I going into labor?
I just love this part that, like, you schedule an induction for that night, and then, like, baby, just impeccable timing, which I think I told you on the phone that day of, like, wow, this baby just really knows when to come. Mm-hmm. Because you didn't really want an induction.
No.
Even though I knew that, like, planning ahead has to be nice.
Yeah. And I would do whatever is safest for baby. You know? I feel like because we did schedule it, I was able to relax. You know? So that probably helped induce the labor a little bit. Because when you're like super relaxed, you know, everything just kind of, all your hormones start going.
Yeah.
You know?
Loosey-goosey.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I woke up around 1:30, had some cramps, and tried to go back to sleep, and woke up again around 2 and started timing the cramps, and they were definitely like contractions.
Cramps turn contractions.
Yeah. So I got up and I took a bath just to try to relax. And I it was similar to my last labor, where I just didn't like sitting or laying down or anything like that. So I took a pretty short bath, and it was just kind of uncomfortable. I think I put on some music and just like laid there for a little bit and was like, yeah, no.
I'm done with
Not
this.
feeling it. So I got up and took a shower, which, thinking back to Arthur's pregnancy, the shower was when it really like set things off. So maybe it wasn't the best idea while I was still at home, but it felt really good. And I think I showered until the hot water ran out. And my contractions picked up a lot. And I remember just being like, oh, okay, these are pretty strong. So I called the OB and let him know, and he was just like, whenever you feel like you want to go in, you should go in. He's like, you've done this before. I trust you to know when to go in, you know?
I love that.
And he was like, labor at home if you want.
Yeah.
You know, similar to the birthing center. So they wouldn't have sent me home, but he knew that what I kind of wanted. So I called the doula and first I called my mom. And she was supposed to have her phone on, like, so when I called it would ring. But it didn't. And so she was supposed to be my person to come over and watch Arthur. But she didn't answer, so I called Natalie. Thankfully she was up because she was pregnant.
20 weeks pregnant, having to go to the bathroom.
So yeah, and then I woke Jason up. I let him sleep this time.
You better be thankful.
Woke him up and was like, okay, it's time to go. And he was just like, what? No, it's tomorrow. We're going tomorrow. We still have tomorrow to rest. I'm like, no, sorry.
I can't believe he like didn't get up through the shower running or anything.
I think he did. And I just said, just go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. That makes sense.
Just rest because I've got this.
Yeah.
This time. I don't need you like following me around this time.
Picking up my clothes and my water.
Yeah. So, when Natalie got there, I remember like kind of giving you the rundown of like Arthur, like, okay, so Arthur, I think my mom was going to come and take him to daycare, or were you going to take him to daycare? I don't remember all the details now, but I would like pause in between and like have a contraction.
Yes. It was like literally gearing me up for what's to come. And I was like, wow, she's doing this really well.
Thank you. And then I remember making toast. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to eat. I want to eat before I go in. Because I don't know how long labor is going to be. So I was like making toast and trying to make Jason eat too. And
and it was like the end of December, so it was freezing. Yeah. It was 3:00 in the morning. And I remember like knocking on your door and like no one's answering. I'm like, what happened? Like, aren't they in labor? Did they go back to bed? I'm like knocking, I'm like calling you and Jason, and you're like, 1 minute. And it felt like 5 more minutes. And you finally answered. Oh, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I didn't want to bang on the door either.
Yeah.
Like, let me in, and then wake up Arthur.
Arthur, yeah. Poor Arthur was just sleeping in his room. Yeah, so then we went to the hospital, and just so different going to the intake, the welcome center, I guess it's called.
Like triage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of the birthing center, because you go into a room that's like curtained off.
Yeah, no privacy.
No. And then they're like, okay, hop up there, take off your clothes, put on this robe, and then we're going to check you. And I'm like, do you have to? She's like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't have to. I'm like, all right, I guess. I don't remember anything really of like what they said.
You guys got to the hospital at like 4 a.m.?
Let's see. Yeah, it was around 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I remember waiting down there for a while for like a room too. And I told him from the get-go, I said, I want a low intervention room.
Yes.
Which is good. What good thing about Mercy is that they have low intervention rooms where they have the big beds. Yeah. Like the birthing center. It's a double or a queen size bed. And then they have tubs in the room. So yeah, is that the only difference?
I think so.
Those rooms?
Yeah.
It was pretty big. It was a big room. I don't know how the regular rooms are, but
yeah. The regular rooms like definitely don't have that like extra large bathroom. And then just like a single hospital bed.
Yeah. That bed was awesome.
Those beds, were awesome.
So we got up. This whole time, I was having contractions, just standing there, swaying. The nurse would be like asking questions, and I think they asked like the same questions over and over, and I'm like they're asking for my insurance card. And at the birthing center, you do all of that stuff prior.
Of course.
And they don't ask you a single thing when you get there, except like, what can we do for you?
Yeah.
You know?
I just walked in at my point and just like, they were like, hey, Natalie.
Yeah.
I was like, you guys know me by this point.
So different. And they were like, yeah, like, give me your insurance card, sign this. And I'm like, what? No, I'm in labor. Like,
yeah.
Just leave me alone.
Get me up to a room, please.
Yeah. So I'm like hanging on Jason and just swaying. And, I got they said they had a low intervention room. They were getting it ready. And a nurse came down and was like, do you want to go in a wheelchair? And I said, no, I just want to walk. So we're walking and I'd be like, oh, I'm having a contraction. I need to stop. And I'd have the contraction and we'd start walking again. And we got up to the room, and I told Jason, start filling up the tub. And they were like, we're going to check all your stuff. We're going to put monitors on you. Yeah. And then they had to like check the baby's heartbeat and then mine. But I asked them for wireless monitors.
Yes.
But first they had to do like the non-wireless to like check, and then they like synced it, I guess, to the wireless. And then like the wireless wasn't working, and it just like took forever. And then this guy walked, I guess he was a doctor. He walked in with this machine, and he's like, oh, and I looked at Jason and I go, what is he here for? Like, I there's so many people in here.
Did he look like a doctor?
He was young.
I feel like doctors never come in with machines. They're just the ones who come in and it's like Oh, we're gonna like deliver a baby in 3 seconds?
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess he was a resident, maybe, and he had to check the baby's position.
Mm.
I don't know. And I'm
Or
like,
like a
why do you care?
sonographer?
How do you need to look at the position?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
They
don't
just
know.
did like, I guess it was an ultrasound type thing. And he just
Yeah.
like pushed on my belly a bunch.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, baby's head down. I'm like, yeah, I know. I can feel it.
you
And
wanna
he had been
feel
head
it?
down from like all my ultrasounds. I don't know. That just seemed like an extra step that
Yeah.
I didn't need. So I feel like from the time we got to the hospital and the time I actually got into the tub, it was about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So very different from
5
the
a.m.
pregnant center.
Yeah.
And once I got into the tub, I felt pretty good. My doula had gotten there by that time.
Mm-hmm.
And she like turned all the lights off, put little
Yes.
candles around,
Yeah.
turned on the diffuser,
Mm-hmm.
and she closed the door
Yeah.
to the bathroom. So it was just Jason, her, and I in there for about an hour. I mean, the nurse would come in and just kind of peek her head in, and I'd be like, I'm fine. I'm good. I'll tell you when I need you. I'm sure this is not like normal.
A typical night
for
for
patients
you. No.
yeah. I remember starting to feel like pretty uncomfortable in the tub, and I remembered laboring on the toilet
Mm-hmm.
with Arthur, so I thought, oh, I'll try that.
Mm-hmm.
So I stood up. I had already gone through transition, and my doula was so great, just helping with getting through those contractions. And it was a really quick transition.
Mm-hmm.
And she would again do like, oh, let's do like the low moaning and that kind of thing. And it's just so helpful. Everyone should get a doula.
They are amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Even if you have an induction and an
no matter
epidural,
what kind of
any
birth.
birth, they're just such a great support system.
They really are.
So I remember standing up and my water broke right then, just a gush, like the movie, like gush, And I like looked down, I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? And I kind of like looked at Jason and Stephanie and I'm like, I got to get out of this tub. This baby is coming like right now. And I'm like looking, and you have to like step out of the tub.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out how to like lift my legs over the tub because I had no strength.
You're like tree stumps.
And I thought like if I lifted my leg up, the baby would just kind of fly out. Seriously, like I could not figure it out. So like they had to like help me, like hoist me out of the tub. And Stephanie went and got the nurse and said she's about to have the baby. And Jason's like helping me to the bed, and the nurse is like, okay, she comes in, she's like, okay, I'm gonna check you. And like, I don't know why. This baby is coming. So I go, okay, fine. So I laid out on the bed and she checks me and she goes, okay, yeah, you're a 10 and you're fully effaced. I'm like, yeah, I could tell. And a contraction started and I like jumped out of bed, just like I didn't want to be laying down.
Yeah.
And I looked at Jason and I go, this baby is coming now. And he's like looking at me and like looking at the nurse because the nurse is like walking away. Like, okay, I guess she'll start like getting ready to push soon.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, no, like this baby's coming now. I remember saying that. And the contraction, her head came out with that contraction. And
you didn't even push.
No.
Oh my God.
And the nurse and Jason and I'm like, lady, like look back, and the nurse like comes running and her and Jason are like diving under me. I'm standing there.
Oh my God.
And she just kind of like slid out while I'm standing there. And they caught her and she was like pretty slippery. They didn't have towels, they were just like
come on your
She
birthday.
was like, hit the floor.
Oh my God. Wow.
It was that like fetal ejection reflex.
Yes. I
Like
remember like
100%.
Jason texted me like, yeah, we kind of just like dove to Cotter, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty crazy. But now I'm like hearing it and I'm like, oh my gosh.
It was unreal. And I mean, it was so fast. It was like so much more intense than Arthur's birth.
It sounds like you didn't even push though. That's
No,
like
I
the wild
didn't.
part.
I was just like standing there.
It's wild.
And I'm like, oh, she's coming out.
This makes me want to have another baby. Hi.
So yeah, she had like a short cord.
Yeah.
So she couldn't come up to my chest. So she was just like on my belly for, a couple minutes until they cut the cord. And that's when the OB came in.
Were you still just like standing up in that position, holding her?
For a little bit. And then I kind of like backed up to the bed.
Yeah.
Because I was pretty close to the bed still.
Yeah.
And then I was sitting on the bed for a while with her, like on my belly. And they wiped her off. And
did you think about checking the genitals at this point?
Yeah, we did that right away. I like looked down and I was like, oh my God, it's a girl.
Which, guys, like that doesn't happen very often for this family because so many boys.
So many boys. So many.
I thought for sure, like, I'm having a boy, Liz is going to have a boy.
I thought 100% that it was going to be another boy.
Yeah.
And we were like, how are we going to love another boy as much as we love Arthur?
It just happens.
Yeah, definitely. The heart just grows. Yeah. So it was just unreal how fast she came out. I went into labor like around 1:30 or 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And she came at
5:41?
5:57 a.m.
Okay.
So almost 6 a.m.
That's crazy.
So it was a 4-hour birth.
Yeah, that's insane. I'm just like, what? I remember texting Jason at like 7:30 when Arthur was awake and being like, no way that like she's still in labor. I just don't think it's gonna happen. Like I think that, she's already birthed a baby. And Jason was like, it's a girl. I'm like, no way. I'm like, Arthur, you have a sister.
Oh my God. Just so crazy.
It was so special.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Girl.
No, she's just the best thing in
Oh
the
my
whole wide
God,
world.
she's a wild child.
I love her
Holy
so
cow.
much.
She fits right in to our
She
family.
really does. She's perfect.
She's so go with the flow, like chill little girl.
Yes.
Yeah. So after the OB got there, I had been pretty nervous about my placenta coming out easily because of my last experience with Arthur just being, that was hard to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, please just come out.
Yeah.
And I was holding Vivian and just doing my golden hour. And the OB was just basically like pressing on my belly a lot and just massaging it. And he did it. It was probably about 30 minutes where he was pressing on my belly. And I know that he knew of my history too.
Yeah.
And just tried to do everything so that he wouldn't have to, hand deliver my placenta again. And it ended up coming out naturally.
So good.
Which was good. Yeah. I was thankful for that.
Did you feel like you were bleeding as much as you were with Arthur?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No. Definitely
That's
not. I didn't even feel anything. And
That's so
then
good.
I got stitched up and started breastfeeding with Vivian and nursed, a little bit. And when we got transferred to mom and baby, I was like up right away. Like I felt so good.
That's awesome.
Like so much better than after Arthur's birth. Like I just had energy.
Yeah.
I felt like I had just like ran, like I had that, like those endorphins and that adrenaline, and I was just like, I just birthed the baby in 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like, it was just amazing. And because of COVID, we didn't have visitors. We weren't allowed visitors, which
was so different than Arthur.
So different. So we were like FaceTiming everybody and
Yeah.
just showing everybody Vivian and
all of her hair.
Yeah. She had a lot of hair.
So much.
And we named her Vivian Jane after my 2 grandmothers. And yeah, we just like really enjoyed the day and, tried breastfeeding. And I think a lactation consultant came, and I had brought all of my pump equipment.
Oh, wow.
to the hospital, and they were like super impressed. Like,
that is impressive.
You're like prepared. And I started pumping right away. I asked for all the equipment for the hospital grade pump. I started doing that. I started hand pumping. So I was getting out colostrum.
That's awesome.
And so I was able to feed that to her. And then we did a little bit of direct feeding. And then by day 2, I think it was, so we sent her to the nursery first for nighttime. Yeah. We did with Arthur too.
Yeah.
It's we needed our sleep. But they bring him in every 2 hours.
To try.
Anyways. Yeah. To try and to check you. So it's like, what's the difference? I don't know. I needed some sleep.
Yeah.
So the second night, I think it was, I felt like she wasn't getting much from the breast, so I just asked for formula. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start it right off the bat. And I had great nurses. No one pressured me into, oh, well, are you sure you don't want to try breastfeeding or anything like that? They were just like, sure, here you go.
Yeah.
Do you know how to do it? You know how to wash the nipple? Just whatever.
Yeah.
And then that time I asked for extra formula as we were leaving. Goes, is this charged by insurance? And they said, no, we get it donated. Or not donated, but free, basically, from Enfamil.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'll bring you a couple cases. So that was amazing. And like this hospital stay was, Arthur's was nice too. We got to bond with him and, just really hang out. But this was like kind of a break from Arthur too. So we brought our Roku and plugged it into the hospital TV. Jason, they let the partners leave and come back, and he went to the grocery store and brought back some little bottles of champagne.
Oh my gosh.
And we celebrated.
Yeah.
And we were watching our shows, and
I love this.
Oh gosh, the second baby it just seemed, we were like, we got this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's kind of like ironic because we were talking about a second baby today.
Oh.
Yeah. We're like, it's just going to be so much easier. We'll just like know what we're doing.
Yeah. It's different.
It is.
It's different.
Yeah.
Like we had the more eventful pregnancy with Vivian, but like our postpartum was, oh my God, just so different. I mean, after all the struggles I went through with Arthur, I just thought like, I'm just not going to put myself through that again. I'm not going to put the pressure on myself again.
Yeah.
I did take another breastfeeding course because I was like, now that I know what happened, maybe I can do it better. I don't know.
Get ahead of it. Yeah.
So I took like a specialized breastfeeding class online, and it kind of helped. I was able to latch her on better, but I had the similar problems where I just had like supply problems. I didn't have a lot of supply again.
Yeah.
My milk came in faster, but it just wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
I pumped round the clock. So I started pumping with Vivian right away. And when I think it was about a week into her after she was born, I stopped direct feeding. Because again, it was just like, it wasn't enjoyable.
Yeah.
It wasn't working for us.
Yeah.
And so I pumped and I did formula. And with our doula package, I actually had a lactation consultant come. And she was great. I told her like my past and what happened with Arthur, and then how I kind of wanted to approach it with Vivian, and she was like super supportive, and she helped me check my pumping equipment and make sure that everything fit well, which was nice because I hadn't really had that support before. So so that was nice. I think I didn't even end up pumping for very long with her, too.
I know.
It was just like...
I feel like Arthur's birthday was like 5-ish weeks in of Vivian's life. And you're like, remember you telling me, I stopped pumping today. And you were like so happy about it. I'm like, hell yeah. Good. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, my mental health is just more important than breast milk. It just
is.
It's not...
There's no
question. It's not even a question.
Yeah. I mean, like... I think we're both obsessed with Big Little Feelings.
Yeah.
And like Dina is going through that. And I'm like, I just support her for like being so open and honest. It's like, my mental health is more important. So I'm going to do what works for me. Yeah. My mental health, my family. Like, you can't be mad or like anything against women who take like their mental health and like their priority over their family and themselves before like anything else. Like, there's no breast is best. It's fed is best.
No. It's
so
the dumbest campaign ever. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Formula is life-saving, not just for like babies, but for moms too.
Yeah. It's none of our business how you feed your baby. Right. Just as long as they're fed.
Yeah. and it's beneficial for both of you.
Yes.
And speaking of, it was, I don't remember exactly when, but I did feel some of the anxiety like starting to creep back in.
Yeah.
And this time I reached out to a psychiatrist and she was like, oh, you can try this medicine. I was like, all right, let's do it. Like, I want to feel good. I want to feel normal. And I've tried 2 different medications now, and the one that worked, I've been on for over a year now, and it is fantastic. And I feel like so much better. Like, I'm a huge advocate for doing what works for you and not feeling like societal pressures for just feeling bad about mental health, you know?
Yeah.
So, that's been great. I like it. And a therapist, you know? Yeah. Even the psychiatrist said like medication plus a therapist is like a good route to go for me. Yeah. So
just have to find that support system.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So very different pregnancy, very different journey from Arthur. But great. Both pregnancies, just amazing little miracles, you know.
I know. They're both so amazing.
Yeah.
So can't get better than that.
The cutest little brother and sister. They're gonna give us a run for our money.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So I guess that's pretty much it for my Vivian story.
I just still love her so much. She's just the sweetest. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm really glad that you kind of went into like your postpartum like journey too of mental health, because I think just during this week of like maternal mental health, it's like you're just advocating for you and women all around us that need that support. So.
Yeah.
So kind of just closing out here. Our golden hour Instagram has been deactivated.
Oh gosh, so many issues.
It's been a mess. So please feel free to follow me at Nat_golden hour.
And I'm at Liz_golden_hour. And our Facebook is at thegoldenhour.birthpodcast. And we have a website, www.thegoldenhourbirthpodcast.com, where on there you can find our blog, our episodes, and links to Apple Podcasts,
Yeah,
Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts.
Yeah. So feel free to connect with us there.
Okay, thank you for listening.
Thanks. Bye-bye.